We're just heading out to the garage here. It's the Cyclone, our Bowler truck, and the 64 Merc. So put away for the winter. The Cougar that we're going to be talking about is in here. This is a 69 Cougar XR7 convertible with a GT package. Dad actually found this car a few years ago in Gilbert Plains, Manitoba, where it was sitting since 1984. And I've done some videos on this car before. I found the car, it was just dirty, but I mean, pretty much we haven't really done too much to it here. It's a serial number 16. It's a introductory show car. I don't know if we can make that out in the camera or not. Yeah, I think focus there. It's an introductory show car built in Dearborn, Michigan, obviously. That's where all the convertibles were built. First year for the convertible, and first year for this engine, which we're going to talk about here. It was really cool to find a introductory car with such a low serial number. There's the Marty info on it. So this car was sent to Winnipeg after it left there. You can see there was 8 cars that were built like this, and here's the invoices. There's actually 3 with this car, and some date code pictures on the transmission and engine, and the serial number is in the block, 351 on there, and the date codes. And why this is important is I'm actually going to talk about this a little bit here. This engine and the rumors about the car, because the car had been sitting for a while and no one knew a whole lot about it, but the local talk was it was a Boss Hero 2. Obviously it's not a Boss Hero 2. Anyone knows what a Boss Hero 2 looks like knows it has Cleveland heads and stuff on it. It is just a 351 Windsor, and it is the original engine to the car, as we showed you in the serial numbers there. When we got this car, it was this engine bay was really dirty. Yeah, I know I got the Moroso wires on there now. It actually had black wires with the orange boots, Boss Hero 2 numbering, just like the wires they would have used on there. And I think certain things in the aluminum intake might have thrown some guys off. So what this engine actually is part of like the muscle parts program kind of deal. So while we're doing the research on the car and finding the history about the car and the uniqueness of an introductory show car, and something with its original sheet metal that's in this nice a shape that was been put away for so long. While we were doing that research, we were also researching this engine. So it's got a aluminum intake, carb. The valve train has been changed. It's got different springs, rocker arms, push rod guide plates, dual point Shelby Mallory distributor that was available through the Shelby catalog. These are all off the shelf Ford Performance parts from 1969 to 1971. They do carry a C9 casting number, so 1969 casting number on this stuff. Obviously the valve covers, they're not Ford, they're actually Kel Custom. And it's got a Mallory Voltmaster coil as well. This car also had, we never kept them, I kind of regret it now, but they were really rusty and not usable. They had long tube headers on it, Hooker ones actually. And this car also had traction bars, so someone built this thing to go racing. Well, who built this thing to go racing. Because it's all Ford over-the-shelf performance parts, and with it being an introductory show car, there's a real, I'm really leaning to dealer. We know the stuff was dealer installed, but we're thinking this was a something that they put together to go racing at possibly what they call a Keystone Bison Dragway in Winnipeg. Even though if it only ran for a few months, I believe that it was. I mean, this car's been repainted too, and I'm starting to wonder if it maybe had graphics or something on it at one point. It's got this, I don't know if you can make it out, it's got this really unique plate. And I mean, this plate isn't someone made who didn't know what they were doing. This was put on by this is very professional. This plate, yeah, you just can't focus on it here with it chrome. It's the writing on it is straight as an arrow and crisp. It has the new tune-up specs with the dual point distributor, and the camshaft has been changed. Now that was real popular with this Ford muscle parts program that they were running, and here's some of the stuff through the Ford muscle parts book. But what's a little more to the story of this car is this little book right here. Most people have never seen this little book. My dad bought this book in, he would have been about 20 years old. And as a little kid, I used to carry this book around with me. I probably started reading it when I was about 10 years old, maybe even sooner. And it's kind of like my Bible. I studied this thing from start to back. You can see it does not say 351 Windsor on there anywhere. But when you get into this book, this is a performance book, how to build up some stuff. It's got stages. It's performance. Here's camshaft numbers of all the different camshafts that they were offering. This is here's your factory specs. I mean, this is really cool stuff. I mean, it was Ford racing teams. So in this book, there's a page here from Ford of Canada, right here. It talks about the 351 Windsor, and you can see the name Mike Woods. Mike Woods makes it fly. And when you go through this and you read this, he actually talks about doing all the stuff that was done to this engine, which is really cool, and talks about the camshaft. And the guys used to say Boss 02 or Boss 02 camshaft in this car. Well, this cam is really close to that, so maybe that's part of the story that was passed down, was with this cam. It also talks about doing the long tube headers, and it also talks about changing the firing order, as this one has been done and riveted with all that information to the rad support. I'm not saying that Mike Woods built this engine, but he's that's Woods Larkin Ford in Ontario. This car did go to Manitoba. They also ran a performance clinic, and Mike Woods was part of that Ford drag racing team with the two Mustangs, the Cyclone, and the Cougar. And they were doing clinics across the way, as well as, the dealerships were really big into racing. If you look at any old vintage photos, they're always sponsored by a dealership. I mean, Rankin Ford was one of the biggest ones. I mean, and Mike Woods actually ran a car called the Gold Digger, or Falcon, with a BFX class with a 289 in it, and ran under 12 seconds with that car. And that was at Wood Larkin. So anyway, he's the guy. By the sounds of it, he's the guy that kind of developed this package for the muscle parts program. And so it having a Canadian connection, this being an introductory show car, coming up early, and when you look through the timeline, the early timeline of this car was about 3 weeks where it was like not released yet. We're not really sure where it was or why it wasn't released. But with all this stuff, it would have been very easily for a place like, I'm not sure if Consolidated Motors was actually the guys doing it. This is where the car did go. Um, I don't know if they would have, if they were into that racing, they could have been, and they could have been the guys who just grabbed all the stuff off the shelf, threw it on this car, and went drag racing at Kingsway, or sorry, Keystone. Yeah, so really neat. Uh, I don't. I do have another set of headers we're going to be putting back on this car, but that's kind of it here for now. The research on the history of this car is going to keep continuing. I I love that it's a introductory car. It's a 1.8. It's convertible. It's loaded to the nines. But this Ford Performance stuff that's on this engine, I find absolutely remarkable. So anyway, yeah, that's my video. I probably rambled on way too much, but there it is. Bye for now. Update you on more research.